How to keep living even if you don't really want to. Now, I'm guessing are the chances you probably clicked on this video because you have nothing better to do. But I understand you can't be asked to actually go through all of this. I mean, what could I have possibly written that's going to make you change your whole outlook on life and make you think that life is great and that you should keep going? Because the truth is, I understand why you feel that way, and you're not to blame, and you're right to feel that way. I mean, you've probably been through some shit and you haven't really found a way out. Now, I'm not here to tell you that this video is going to completely change your life, and this is not going to be some emotional video where I tell you you're amazing and you should keep going and things are going to work out in the end, because they're probably not if you stay the same. Now, I understand that you probably don't have the motivation to change, and that's okay. I think before we get any motivation or anything that's too woo woo or deep or emotional, because we don't really give a shit about that, let's just bring an awareness to it, right? Have an understanding of why we feel the way that we feel at its core, and then maybe that could change something, maybe not, but at least, if we do take our own life, we have an understanding of why we felt the way that we felt. So we can start over here. Typically, the reason that you're going to feel these emotions is because you've had certain traumatic experiences, usually as a child, that kind of fucked you up. So it's not that anyone's inherently born with feelings of depression or these negative emotions or suicidal ideas. It's just that you've been through certain things that taught you other things that we're going to get into, and that kind of led you to feel like it's not worth living. And to be honest, the state or the things that you experienced when you were a kid were right to make you feel that way. So the traumatic experiences basically lead to you feeling like you have no LVS. Now, what is LVS? LVS are the three core needs that we have as children. So as soon as you're born out of the womb, you have three core needs, and those are love, validation, and security. When you don't receive love, validation, or security, you basically are put into a state of survival, because those are the three things that you need to survive as a newborn child. Now, obviously, you don't have to be newborn in this case. You can be anywhere between the ages of 0 to 10. But the idea of unconditional love and validation and security are supposed to exist at least for the first 5 to 6, 7 years of your life. So as soon as you don't receive LVS as a result of your traumatic experiences, that could be abuse, physical abuse, emotional neglect, lack of validation, not feeling safe in your environment. Those are all basically traumatic experiences. So you have a lack of love, validation, and security, and so you trigger a survival response in your behavior, because all you're looking for is those feelings of love, validation, and security in order to survive. Again, this goes back to the idea of survival, which is obviously your core need. So any one of these four is activated. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn. They don't really matter. I mean, they do, but we're not going to get too deep into them. You get any one of these four response, or any combination of two of these four, basically. And then those are how you start to kind of get your sense of safety and security in the world, because you're not getting them, let's just say, naturally or through normal procedures like your parents just being present and loving you and things like that. So you activating these survival responses are basically your way of surviving. And once you activate any combination or any one of these four flight types, you basically get a sense of peace, security, or anything that basically reflects an idea of survival, and that is exactly what you're looking for. Now, at the time of you experiencing or having these experiences, these are crucial, and they're basically what allow you to survive, because that's exactly what they are, survival responses. So they were useful at the time, but what's unfortunate is that as you move into adult life, you don't really lose these survival responses, and so your body or your whole consciousness, your whole state is staying in a state of survival, and you moving through your adult life with these response types. And so normal things that should be, I mean, if you look at them rationally, they're very normal circumstances or situations, can throw you back into this state of survival. These are called emotional flashbacks. And again, these can happen more consistently, more constantly, the more that you've been traumatized. So traumatic experiences are either frequent or intense, or a combination of the two. So you're moving through your adult life in a state of survival, and you are always attempting to receive love, validation, and security. Now, you're doing this externally, okay? And you're doing this by either trying to impress your parents, trying to get a girlfriend, a boyfriend, trying to get better grades, get a better job, make more money. This is why we see so many high achievers who are basically miserable. You hear this all the time, where you have entrepreneurs, you have very wealthy people who we tend to hear they're very miserable and they're not satisfied with their lives, even though everything on the external looks perfect, right? They have all the money, they have the family, their kids are going to the best of schools, they have nice cars, they have maids, they have drivers. Everything is basically perfect in their life externally. They also have probably a big business that is contributing a lot to society and to the economy. So on the surface, on paper, everything looks like it's going perfectly well, but for whatever reason, they feel miserable inside. And that is because they lack their inherent three core needs. Their inner child lacks love, validation, and security. And so this attempt at looking for love, validation, and security externally has never been able to fill what they're lacking internally, which is love, validation, and security. Now I'm going to get into why as a kid you look for it externally through your parents and why that matters and why it doesn't work as an adult. So again, the brutal truth here is that you can't get these three core needs externally. No matter what you try, no matter what you do, no matter what you achieve, no matter how many women like you, no matter how much money you make, you will never be able to fulfill that void of a lack of love, validation, and security externally, right? So what happens as a result is you try to achieve more and more things, and you start to find that you still have those feelings of lack. You still feel like you're not loved, like you're not validated, like you're not experiencing a sense of internal security. And so what happens is that as a result of all of these experiences, you have negative beliefs about yourself, such as something is inherently wrong with me, or I'm worthless, or I'm unlovable, or any combination of these. And you have this sort of feeling of guilt and shame. These are the two core emotions that come as a result of traumatic experiences. So anything that could happen will basically, you will take upon yourself as if it was your responsibility. So I'll give you a very brief example. You have your parents fighting. Again, you're not involved in the situation. You can hear your parents shouting at each other or abusing each other. That could be physically or emotionally. Even though you're not involved in this scenario, you're taking it as being your fault. This is because the child is egocentric, and basically to the child's mind, the world revolves around them. And so anything that happens in their reality is a result of their own making, right? So they take blame for anything negative that happens. And so these negative beliefs that you formed as a result of your traumatic experiences are going to be reinforced because you're trying to get love, validation, and security, and no matter how hard you try, you're not getting it. And even if you are, let's say, objectively getting it from people on the external, it doesn't feel like it internally. So you could have people telling you you're amazing. You can have people telling you that, you've contributed so much, or you're such a great father, or this and that. But internally, you still feel like you're a fraud, you're an imposter, you haven't actually done anything to achieve this level of praise. And that is, again, because externally can't change what's going on internally. So that goes back to the idea that these negative beliefs are reinforced because you still internally don't feel this feeling of love, validation, and security. And so because you have these beliefs, your beliefs are going to manifest experiences that are reflective of them, right? So again, because you're externally dependent, you're looking for something on the external to change how you feel internally, to change your lack of love, validation, and security. You're going to keep manifesting experiences that are reflective of the beliefs that you have about yourself. So you're going to manifest experiences that are going to reinforce or show you that something is inherently wrong with you, that you're worthless, that you're unlovable, that you're guilty, that your parents' divorce was your fault, that your parent leaving was your fault, that your parents' misery is your fault, or that anything that happened to you, any way that your parents treated you, was because you were a bad person and you deserved it. So it's important to come to the understanding that these experiences that you're manifesting are a result of your beliefs. So what happens internally will manifest externally, not the other way around. It's not that you have experiences on the outside, on the external, that prove to you these beliefs, and that is what basically creates them. It's rather the opposite. So you have traumatic experiences that create negative beliefs about yourself, and these beliefs basically want to maintain themselves, and so they present scenarios or experiences in the outside world that are reflective of those beliefs that you already have initially, so that they can get your evidence and reinforcement so that they can maintain themselves and grow stronger. And so once you're aware of this, you can kind of study the difference between the internal and the external. So again, from the ages of 0 to 10, your child mind, let's say your psyche, is egocentric. So that means that to you, the world revolves around you. Anything that happens is a result of you. It's either your fault or to your credit, right? And also, you are extremely programmable. Now that is because your brain is in a brainwave state called theta, usually from the ages of 0 to 10. And that means that the door to your subconscious mind is completely open. That means that anything that happens or anything that is said to you can be easily impressed without a huge degree of emotion required, such as the degree to which emotion is required to program your subconscious mind as an adult. So again, you're extremely programmable from the ages of 0 to 10. Again, anything that happens, any traumatic experience, you take in as your fault. So if your parent grabs a belt and beats the shit out of you, you interpret that as you being such a bad person to the extent of which you deserve to be beaten with a belt. And you internalize that. And that is why you are egocentric, or that is because you're egocentric and because you are extremely programmable. Now, what's important to note here is that these experiences are programming you internally, right? So these external experiences as a kid, because the door to your subconscious mind is so open, they are programming you internally. Again, because you're egocentric and you're programmable. I'm going to keep repeating that. So they program you internally, right? And in the past, you try to fix this internal programming externally. So you try to make more money, you try to attract more partners, you try to get in better shape, you try to get better grades, you try to impress more people, you try to get more popular, more famous, and that is what you did in the past. And now that you have this awareness, in the present, you have a new understanding, which is that what was programmed internally can only be changed and fixed internally. And now I don't like to use the word fixed because, again, that is reflective of the belief that many people with trauma have, which is that something is inherently wrong with you, which is not true. There's nothing wrong with you. You are completely normal. You've just been through some negative experiences and you're not alone. There are hundreds of millions of people who've been through traumatic experiences just as you have. Some of them worse, some of them at least easier to handle. But at the end of the day, that doesn't neglect the fact that they were traumatic experiences to begin with. So never minimize your traumas and tell yourself that, oh, just because your parents weren't physically abusive, that means they were good parents, or that they weren't traumatic experiences, or that you didn't have a traumatic upbringing, right? So now with this new understanding that you have, you can understand that what was programmed internally can only be fixed and changed internally. And the way to do that is to use the 3 R's. So typically what happens is you're going to have 2 levels of basically healing or changing what's going on internally in your subconscious mind. Now, the 3 R's framework is recognize, reject, and then replace. So the 3 R's are going to be applied on 2 different levels, which are cognitive and emotional. On the cognitive level, you're going to recognize all the times where you're critical of yourself, where you're not giving yourself love, validation, security, just to make it simple. And then you're going to reject that and you're going to replace it with something that is more conducive to you having a higher sense of self-worth, something that is more aligned with giving yourself love, giving yourself validation, giving yourself security. Now, that is on the cognitive level, which is crucial, and it is the first step. So we don't want to neglect that because it has to be recognized cognitively first, and then we can work on it on the second level, which is emotionally. So emotionally, you have to understand that without the idea or the concept of emotions, you could not have traumatic experiences because they are emotional experiences. And anything that is impressed on the subconscious mind is impressed through emotion, right? So any way that you are programmed internally is through emotion. And so obviously, it only makes sense that the only way to change that is through emotion. Now, people typically tend to have this idea that healing trauma or changing or whatever takes a long time and it's a healing journey and it's hard and it's long, right? Pause. But that wouldn't make sense simply due to the fact that one traumatic experience, because it's so emotionally intense, can scar you for life and change the way that you behave and that you see yourself, right? So again, it goes back to the idea that you can change your beliefs around trauma itself, which is that trauma is easy to overcome and heal, and you can just do it through emotion. But I want to emphasize the importance of using the 3 R's on a cognitive level before using it on an emotional level. So basically, it applies in the same way. On an emotional level, you're also going to use the 3 R's, which is recognize, reject, and replace. But you're going to recognize emotions that you felt or that you're feeling that reflect a lack of love, validation, and security. You're going to reject them, and then you're going to replace them with different emotions, right? And what's also important to do is to have an emotional release. When I say emotional release, this means basically feeling the emotions that you felt as a child, but in your adult life. So trying to re-experience the things that you felt as a kid, but from a rational adult's perspective so that you can process them. And then also you're going to want to grieve deeply. When I say grieve, I mean think about your inner child, and then you're going to grieve the things that that child lacked, all the lack of love, validation, and security, which you wanted so deeply, and you're going to grieve the fact that you never received it. You're going to grieve the fact that you had to go through all these experiences, and you're going to love yourself from that point. And then you're going to decide that, you know what, you don't need anything external, and you're going to be your own source of love, validation, and security. So, yeah, I think I'm going to keep it brief. It's pretty simple, and there's no need to overcomplicate it. Healing trauma is very easy, very simple, and traumas are a gift because they give you the potentiality to become a much stronger person than you would have been had you not gone through trauma initially. So if you take two different lives, for example, someone who's been through trauma and someone who hasn't, the one who has been through trauma is going to live a significantly worse life until the point that they decide to work on their trauma, to which they can then live a much better life than the normal person who hadn't experienced trauma. So, yeah, I'm hoping this was valuable. I'm hoping I wasn't too kind of out of breath speaking on this, but again, very simple, very easy, and I hope that you found it valuable. So, yeah, see you soon. Peace.